Call of Duty Warzone has somehow brought me back into playing it, and I don't know how or why. It's been 6 years since the reboot of Modern Warfare, and shortly after its launch, we got this version of Battle Royale, Warzone. I remember playing it and being very impressed by how well it functioned, and the new gulag system which allowed you to return to the zone, but you had to fight your way back. It was awesome, and even though I did and still have some personal gripes with a few mechanics and the like, my overall enjoyment when it was new was a net positive. However, once Warzone started to bleed into future Call of Duties and it became this all-encompassing mass of the entire franchise post-2019, it very quickly lost my attention. With each new game, all the old equipment became obsolete, and it was about the new guns, perks, attachments, and everything else. And that is a cycle that has been going on for, again, almost 6 years now. But with Warzone Season 3 and Verdansk coming back in Black Ops 6, for some reason I had an inclination to download and try it. And to my surprise, not only does it kind of feel like it when it was first released, but it's fun. Like, genuine fun. I've spent the last 2 or 3 days primarily playing the game if I sit down. And the entire time I've been trying to pinpoint what exactly about it feels so good and has rekindled the desire for Warzone and some Call of Duty. So today, let's go over Season 3 of Black Ops 6, Warzone in its current state, some of the changes and additions with this version of Battle Royale, and why I think a lot of people could enjoy the game if they used to play it tons back in the day. One of the original reasons why I dropped Warzone previously was because of how meta-reliant the game was. If you're not using whatever weapon was the hotness at that particular time, you would almost never win. It was incredibly difficult to go up against something that either had more ammunition, longer range, less recoil. It left such a sour taste in my mouth not being able to just use a weapon I built because it looked cool or had attachments I liked. But now in this version of Warzone, that doesn't really seem to be the case. There are now so many weapons across 3 Call of Duty games that anytime I lose to somebody and I spectate them, there's a lot of variety across what people are using for weapons. It also helps that ground and box loot feels pretty decent across the board. I spend a lot of my time just using whatever I can get my hands on, and almost every weapon is usable. Is it perfect? No, of course not, but it will get the job done if need be. Another problem with each new entry into the series is the insane level of power creep for the weapons and their attachments. If you compare some of the attachments from Black Ops 6 to Modern Warfare 2, it's funny how there are almost 0 penalties on any of the attachments in Black Ops 6. Something like a 60-round drum mag won't impede any downsides to your mobility or your aim down sight speed, but if you try to put the same attachment on a gun from Modern Warfare 2, you're gonna have multiple penalties, which is something I find just kind of funny because it's clearly Activision trying to get people to buy the new game and use the new stuff because it's just that much more powerful. But I digress. Balance aside, the variety seems healthy enough that pretty much anything you build can be used to an effective degree. The footage you are watching is from the PS5 version of the game, and I think that might be the most critical component as to why this game feels so fun right now. Warzone is one of those games where I don't always want to sweat at my desk at my computer, and surprisingly, it works very well on console. There are moments of some lag, frame drops and the like because the hardware isn't as powerful, but I honestly don't mind because one of the major additions to console play, you can now exclusively matchmake with other console players. That to me is one of the biggest positive changes for Warzone. Now, you no longer have to deal with PC players in general, but more specifically, cheaters. Cheating in general across the industry has never been more prevalent, but at least on console you are significantly less likely to run into them, which to me personally is worth the slightly more compromised version of the game. Granted, like the UI, the UX, load times, and the like for Call of Duty is even bad on PC, but knowing that everyone I am playing with and against is either on PlayStation or Xbox gives me a certain level of comfort. People have gotten Warzone's meta down with pretty much everything, from movement to weapon builds to being the most efficient at finding other players. I'm not saying that console is more casual, but I feel like I can have more fun, mess around with friends, and just relax while playing a game, which I think we all need every now and again when it comes to playing video games in general. With how much I have been enjoying this version of Warzone and everything that it's doing right, there are still some things I think it's doing wrong. this is a subjective thing, but I have always disliked loadouts being in the game. Instead of finding a weapon you want to mod up and then spending the match looking for the parts to make it better. That to me is better storytelling for your friends when you have a crazy game and want to relive it with people, instead of just landing, finding one of the many ways to earn some money, and then buying your loadout and wreaking havoc across the map. While yes, loadouts allow you to pretty much instantly get back into the fight should you be brought back by a teammate, allowing for a much more risky and aggressive playstyle, I do miss the narrative of finding attachments to make your gun truly yours as you navigate the map. This is totally a subjective opinion, and many will most likely disagree with me, and that's totally fine. But I do wish there was maybe a bonus mode that worked like a more traditional battle royale. There is another really small nitpick, but the Omni movement in some situations, while feeling fresh and liberating, has cost me a couple games now. Trying to run or dive to cover, and ending up still standing or crouched or in a weird position. Maybe there's some settings I can tweak to remedy this, but again, a smaller gripe in the grand scheme of things. Almost all of my time spent playing this season of Warzone has been in the casual Verdansk playlist. What this means is that there are 150 players, with I think at least 50 of them, if not more, being AI. Now, I know some people might discredit this entire video from that statement, but just hear me out. Warzone for the longest time, and maybe it still is and I'm just out of the loop, felt like one of the sweatiest shooters from recent memory. The movement tech, the weapon builds, efficient ways to navigate the map to find other players through bounties. Back in the day, it became so draining to want to play Warzone, and then every match get pretty much jumped by a 4-man team. I'm not discrediting those players or saying that's the wrong way to play. If you get your rocks off from sweating in Warzone, please keep playing that way, do your thing. It can scratch a competitive itch that, for many, is some of the driving factors as to why they enjoy video games. But this new casual mode is just so refreshing. Being able to just hang out with some buddies, catch up about the day or the week, and just take out some AI and players alike. One thing I really do appreciate about this as well is that the AI are kind of sneaky and will ambush you if you aren't careful. I've died plenty of times to AI, and it's always funny when it happens. But their engagements are fair for the most part and are a solid break in between the actual player engagements. Sometimes it's really easy to tell, and other times not so much. It's cool to have a couple lighter engagements, and then off the tail end of one of those you get into a real PvP fight. That constant back and forth of uneasiness about whether that's a player or not is part of the reason I love Tarkov so much. You have to take every fight seriously, and this mode drives home that point. It's such a good time, even if it is considered the quote-unquote easy mode. Honestly, man, I miss Call of Duty. All they would have to do is give us the multiplayer for the original Modern Warfare 2 or the remastered version, and even Black Ops 2, and I would be eternally happy. But nope, what it has become has made me so sad. A hollow, empty shell of its former glory, parading its dead carcass as the thing we fell in love with back in the early to mid-2000s. So many bad and greedy decisions have gotten us to where we are now. But luckily this version of Warzone has just enough in it to scratch the itch I've had for so long. I'm not going to be buying the new Call of Duty, but considering Warzone is free to play, I might as well take it up on that offer. If you've enjoyed Warzone in the past, but hated how there was at one point upwards of 4 combined games worth of content in one, give this version a shot. Yeah, the download is still over 200 gigabytes, which is wild to me, but to sink some hours into it, run around a familiar place, and just have a more casual experience with friends or perhaps some new random folks on the internet, it can be a really fun time, for at least what it's offering. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on this season of Warzone, if you've been playing it, if you play and like the more casual mode, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about game modes somehow staying alive after half a decade's worth of content has been poured into it, which it should have been dead long and since ago. I hope to see you in future ones.